Speaker.
Second reading, summary offences.
I move that the summary offences, possession of handheld lasers amendment bill, be now read a second time. Mr. Speaker, it's a great pleasure to take a call on the second reading of my bill, the summary offences, possession of handheld lasers amendment bill. It's had a long gestation period, being the latest in a number of ideas that I've had for members' legislation. Other proposals pitched include changes to the right-hand rule, which this was adopted by the government, measures to deal with low-ball share offers. This was rolled into government financial legislation, and a strategy to increase small and medium-scale renewable electricity generation. This proposal has not been adopted. However, 3 out of 4 is not bad. The Transport and Industrial Relations Select Committee, of the chairman of who is right beside me here, and a great pleasure to be a member of that committee, and David Bennett did an excellent job of chairing that committee, has examined this bill and recommended unanimously that it be passed. And I am very grateful for the support that we received on Select Committee from across the House. Passed, Mr. Speaker, with the following amendments. The bill seeks to amend the Summary Offences Act 1981 and make it an offence for a person to possess a handheld laser in a public place without reasonable excuse. And if I just hold this up, Mr. Speaker, this is a handheld laser. It can sit in the pocket very readily, but it can cause enormous damage to people's eyesight and also sequelae of blinding people who are driving cars, motor cars, of course, but also, more importantly, is the damage it can do to the night vision of pilots. So the committee recommended changing the name of the bill to refer more accurately to the type of laser that it seeks to control. The committee felt that an amendment to retitle the bill Summary Offences Possession of High-Powered Laser Pointers Amendment Bill would better reflect our recommended change to the definition of the devices that the bill covered. A high-powered laser pointer, Mr. Speaker, means a device that A, in the Director-General of Health's opinion, is the kind commonly known as a laser pointer. It is battery operated. As you can see, this one has no power cable. It is designed or intended to be operated by being held in the hand, and it produces a coherent beam of optical radiation of low divergence, namely a laser beam, and crucially has a power output of greater than 1 milliwatt. The definition of high-powered laser pointers is that used in the 2 new controls which came into effect from March the 1st to help manage the health and safety risks to the public of the use or misuse of high-powered laser pointers. And I refer, of course, to these new controls that the government has brought in to cover the importation, supply and acquisition of high-powered laser pointers. The Custom Import Prohibitions High-Powered Laser Pointers Order 2013 restricts the importation of high-powered laser pointers unless a person has consent to do so, Mr. Speaker. Anyone who commits an offence under this regulation is liable to a fine of up to $5,000. Similarly, a body corporate is liable to a fine of up to $10,000. The Health High-Powered Laser Pointers Regulation 2013 restricts the supply or acquisition of high-powered laser pointers unless a person has obtained a permission to do so. So anyone who commits an offence under this regulation is liable upon conviction for a fine of up to $500. The committee felt it was important that there was consistency between the Summary Offences Possession of Handheld Laser Amendment Bill definition of a high-powered laser pointer and that of this other legislation. Hence, recommended it applies to laser pointers with power outputs greater than 1 milliwatt. In my original bill, the legislation would have empowered the police to seize and retain any laser found on a person in a public place. The committee recommended deleting the seizure provision, as seizure powers are now available to the police under the Search and Surveillance Act 2012, which came into effect after my bill was originally drafted. The committee also recommended amending the start date so the legislation would come into force 28 days after the date upon which it receives royal assent. This would, it was felt, provide the public with reasonable notice of the law change. This bill has been a long time getting to second reading. I have my office in the vibrant and diverse community of Manurewa, as indeed does Lewis Wall, the member for Manurewa, who is sitting opposite at this point in time. And I think we do take pleasure from the fact that our community in Manurewa will be rendered safer by the passage of this bill. From my time in the electorate since 2008, I was very much aware of the many planes flying over our Manurewa community. In fact, Auckland International Airport receives over 140,000 flights a year. 140,000 flights a year. And I became aware of the increasing attempts to interfere with these flights, particularly on take-off and landing, not just, Mr Speaker, around Auckland Airport, but around many of the airports of New Zealand. So since first drafting this bill, the number of laser pointer attacks on New Zealand aircraft has been steadily increasing. In 2011, CAA received 100 laser strike reports. In 2012, slightly more, at 102. In 2013, 119 were reported, and already this year, Mr Speaker, very many have more and more are being reported. In a recent instance, just a few months ago, when a laser pointer was aimed at a Nelson Marlborough rescue helicopter on its way back from a late-night rescue mission. A few weeks ago, a man appeared in the Auckland District Court charged with pointing a particularly powerful blue laser at the Police Eagle helicopter. This particular individual was on the balcony of his home in Karangahape Road and engaged the helicopter as it was taking off from the police helicopter pad at Mechanics Bay. And for those who are unaware of Auckland geography, Mr Speaker, this is a distance of some 4 kilometres. 4 kilometres, Mr Speaker, as the police stated at the time. The incident had the potential to be fatal, given the power of this laser and the potential for things to go wrong. It were incredibly dangerous and incredibly silly, especially over a populated area. It should be noted, Mr Speaker, that the offender, as he was apprehended actually using a laser pointer, not surprisingly, given that he was doing it to the Police Eagle helicopter, was prosecuted under Section 270 of the Crimes Act. The summary offences possession of handheld laser amendment bill is designed to have a preventative aspect and remove the potential for these random acts of mischief from miscreants out and about with laser pointers such as this in their possession. Now, Mr Speaker, I'm extremely pleased that this House is in the process of considering this legislation, which we know will decrease the chances of these lasers being misused. They are potentially exceedingly dangerous weapons. Just last year, a simple internet search reveals that it was possible to purchase on the internet high-powered lasers relatively inexpensively, up to 800 milliwatts. 800 milliwatts of power. They're advertised as 532 nanometre lasers to impress even the serious professionals. These lasers can burst balloons, melt plastic, light matches, and have a range of up to 60 miles. Yes, Mr Speaker, up to 60 miles. And these devices can be readily carried on them. I can see you blanching, Mr Speaker, blanching with fear at the damage that these devices could cause if misused. Last week, I checked the internet again, and it brings me to a comment made by my colleague across the House, Dr Megan Woods, because in the internet search just last week, there was advertised a laser, 2,000 milliwatts in power, under $300, quotes such as a real-life lightsaber from CNN, the perfect gift for the supervillain from the Wall Street Journal, and a seriously badass laser device from Wired magazine. Mr Speaker, these user reviews underline just how dangerous these devices are. Mr Speaker, I could go on, and I shall in the later part of the House when we're considering this, but this is a very simple bill. It's a perfectly formed bill. There's nothing complicated about this bill. I understand it's widely supported across the House. This will make New Zealand a safer place, Mr Speaker. I commend it to the House.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Darian Fenton.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr Speaker. Well, I want to thank the member camcorder for enlightening us on the summary